But it took for grace to pass for me to realize, wow, is this final?
How can God allow this? But he does allow suffering in our life. And, it's not that he causes this. It's just the human nature of being human, the fact that we're not divine.
So it's 2026, and we're back at work here with Reaching for Answers, the road from Emmaus. And tonight we have special guests like we always do. And of course, Eugene. Now, Angelo is here tonight. Jordan's with us again. He's over in the corner. Jordan, what do you have to say for yourself?
It feels good to be back. It feels really good.
It really does feel good to be back. We've been away since November on things. So this year, our goal is to do 50 new testimonies.
We're so blessed tonight. We are so blessed tonight to have Bethany and Chuck Gaita here with us to share their stories and tell us a little bit about the God instances that have happened in their lives. So we're very excited to have them here, and thank you both for coming. I know it's a terrible night out there. The roads are getting bad, and we actually have a catch it from the sky policy. Chuck, PennDOT's out there trying to catch the snow so it doesn't hit the roads for you tonight and you can get home safely.
Just relax, right? The basket's up.
The basket's up. We're going to catch it from the sky.
Yeah.
So where we always start is kind of, usually we have one person. We got a beautiful couple here tonight. We have a beautiful person and a couple tonight.
Right. I agree. Yeah. We do have a beautiful person.
Yeah. So each one of you, just give us a little background on kind of, where you were from a kid. Did you have faith? Didn't you have faith? Were you brought up in that kind of a family or not? Then when you two got together, a little bit about that. And then let's talk about, your family life. And then ultimately those kind of things that led you to be here today. Chuck, why don't you start? No, ladies first.
Of course. Yeah.
Well, I grew up in a Catholic faith household, and
from a childhood.
Born into the faith, really.
Cradle Catholic.
Yes. My mom taught CCD. We went to Mass. We tried to go every week.
Where did you grow up, Bethany?
Elizabeth Township, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Yeah.
So, anyways, I didn't feel like my faith, even though I was exposed to it, I didn't feel like it was a huge part of my life. It was something we did. It was a routine. But when I lost my dad when he was 60.
How old were you at the time?
I was in my early 20s, maybe mid-20s. And that was probably the first time I really saw the presence of God in my life. When my dad had suddenly, he had a heart attack in the hospital, actually, complications from diabetes. He was working as a principal, and he was on Christmas break the day after he went into hospital and never came out. And my sister was living away at the time in New Jersey, and there were just so many signs that happened around that time. Like she was able to come and visit him and spend some time with him before his heart stopped for good. And there were so many little signs that I felt like it was too orchestrated to be just coincidences. It was truly, God was with us. And I mean, it had an impact on my life, from that moment on. So, I felt like it was a little bit more present. God was more present.
Let's go into it for a second. He went into the hospital, and no one was expecting him to pass away.
No one was expecting him to really go to the hospital either. But
okay, he just went one night.
He had an infection. He had an infection from an insulin injection. He'd been doing that insulin injections most of his life, but it was an unusual thing. He was allergic to penicillin. So it was the perfect storm, unfortunately. He was being given some drugs, to help battle the infection, but there were side effects for those drugs, and, his heart stopped. How
long was he in?
About a couple weeks, like a week and a half. And it was over the Christmas breaks, short staffed, hospital holidays. It was between Christmas and New Year's. He passed away on January the 4th. Like I said, there were so many.
Can you remember some of the little things that happened?
Well,
tell us about it.
Just the way people were, like my sister was able to drive with her fiance at the time home from New Jersey to be able to, his heart still was beating until, she got to spend some time with him after she arrived. I mean, that was a long drive. I'm sure it was a very difficult drive.
I probably thought it was unnecessary at the time because he was just in the hospital.
Well, no, I mean, we had called her to tell, my mom had talked to her and told her what was going on. So we knew, she knew it was not good, you know.
Okay.
So, I mean, they came and, you know, we had some other family members that came, and the timing of it was interesting because my dad would have wanted just the 3 girls to be there with him the very, very end. And it was my sister, my mom, and I just standing there, and we see, like in the movies, like the flat line. And I'm looking at, you know, we're all looking at each other like, you know, what's going on? You know, it's just it. And it was the 3 of us, just like my dad would have wanted. You know, just the 3 of us. There were other family members there, but we were the only 3 in the room at that time.
What did that do to your faith at the time? Did you make you doubt your faith? Did it make you solidify your faith?
It solidified it.
Why?
Because I felt like my dad was helping. God was working with my dad to give him kind of like what he wanted at the very end, which would have been his girls there with him. And I just felt it was, and he would have wanted my sister to come. You know, when my dad had his heart attack in the hospital, I had gone down away from the room to go get ginger ale because the unit didn't have ginger ale, and I went down to the vending machine to get it. When I came back, it was chaos, you know, and I was meant not to be there at that moment that happened. So I felt like there was a lot of things that, you know, they're in the forefront of my mind of, you know, that's when the faith started being a little bit of more of a real part of my life, like in action, faith in action, rather than just faith in a book, faith at mass, you know. And,
once a week, you go to mass and you come on. Now, were you 2 married at the time?
no.
Okay. So there's a good segue into catch us up and start. Where were you when you were a kid, and what was your faith like? What was your heritage?
Yeah. My mom is full-blooded Italian. My dad is. I am. Angelo is. Yeah. So anyway, real quick, my mom and dad were married in Pittsburgh. My dad in the 50s didn't want to work in the mill, got into a car, started driving out west with 3 buddies. Stopped in Las Vegas. One of his friends got out and said, I'm staying here. My dad went to California and said, I'm staying here. Sent for my mother. My grandmother was real upset because her daughter was leaving to go to California, like what's going on.
Italian family?
Yeah, so my dad set up shop in California. And
doing what?
he got a job in the food industry, sent for my mother, and then that's where I was born, and I lived there till I was about halfway through high school. I had a couple years, 2 or 3 years of Catholic school, and it was just assumed I was Catholic. We were going to church. I remember at school the nuns were, they were hard on you. You know, they had respect, but they were tough. But I do remember, and so I don't know
Was God a real thing to you, or was it kind of like I'm supposed to do this? But was there really, like, did you talk to God in the car or anything, like, you know, hey God, you know, or was it just like a lot of Catholics, and I'm Catholic now. Yeah, we have that. It's not real.
I just thought it was what I was supposed to do. Yeah. Go through the motions, check the boxes. I would never say that as a young person I was on fire. I never really had anybody I looked up to, and I just thought, I'll be okay. I mean, I'll learn Our Father, the Hail Mary, and I'll pray when I'm supposed to. And basically I was just going through the motions, you know, praying occasionally, going to Mass, and I thought, this is all I need to do. Everything's good.
Whenever you wanted to win a game or something, it was like, you know, that kind of...
Yeah, I have a baseball game today. God, can I win? Can we win the game? You know, I'll pray when things are good, right? What other time do you need to pray, right? Everything's good, and that's all I needed to know. Nobody ever told me let's go further, let's go deeper. There's more you can do. So just kind of checking the boxes. And
so anything happened then before you met Bethany, or is there any story there, or is the next story the 2 of you getting together? What happened there?
Well, we were both married before. I have 2 children from a previous marriage. Okay. I call it chapter 1. Okay. And then, you know, my marriage dissolved, and I think that's when I said... how
old were you?
Late 30s.
Late 30s.
Yeah.
I was 49. I went through the 2 marriage situation as well.
Yeah, and you know, at that point, I thought, okay, here goes my life. It's all ending. So I thought...
Hold on, why did you think it was all ending?
I couldn't keep my marriage together. It was dissolving, and I don't even know what the reason was.
Like a guilt thing? Did you feel guilty about it? Did you feel like you...
I just felt like I had no control, which I think was what really hit me. Like, it was almost like watching a car wreck on the road. Here's this car accident, now I'm watching it, but you're powerless to do anything. So I decided, what can I do with my life? I don't want to go start, here's a bar I can go to. I can go sit and drink all night. Go here. So I decided, maybe what I can do is, maybe I'll lean on my faith. Maybe there's somewhere I can go that there will be people like me. I can be in a safe environment, something that would be structured.
Positive versus negative.
Yeah. So I remember talking to a priest, and he said the church has groups for widowed, divorced, single, whatever it is. And I thought, well, this would be good. I can meet somebody that is a good person like me. I think I'm a good person, right?
Don't we all?
Yeah. So that's what, led me to take the leap and
So you two met
at church.
You were there too.
Now, how did you get there?
We both decided to go to a talk at one of the churches. That's actually the church that is closest to our house, which we do not belong to, but it's funny, we ended up living near it.
How old were you at the time? If I can ask you.
Probably, let me think, late 20, probably early 30s, I
You had
guess.
never been married before, or you had been married before?
I was married.
You were married before.
I was going through a separation at that time. So yeah, probably early 30s, I guess.
Okay.
Or
Yeah, and I
late 20s, I guess, late 20s, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I just wanted to meet a couple, maybe one person that took their marriage seriously and were hurt, and that, you could just be friends with. And I was fortunate enough to meet two people that night, a lady that we're still friends with. And
Yeah, there were three of us, yeah.
so we hung out for
How long before you got serious and decided to get married?
Wait,
A
you're
week?
laughing. There must be a good.
It was a week. How long was it?
a week.
They got married that next
Not quite.
weekend.
You married that night? What happened?
What happened?
Well, we,
Let's hear
We
the
were
truth.
we were talking a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
all the time.
yeah.
I mean, like all the time. I mean, hours
phone?
on the phone. We were together.
Yeah, our
you know.
group met once a week, which was, I really look forward to it because it was a pretty good sized group. And I felt safe there. I didn't feel like out of place. And everybody had a
Like
story.
anybody was judging you or anything like that?
Not at all. And so looking back, I think this was, I was being led to go there, told to go there, even though I didn't realize it. I mean, I could have said, do I want to go to a church and meet other people? Why? I just want to go out and have fun, raise hell, go with my buddies, drink as much as you can. Hopefully I get home safely. But I knew I didn't want to go that route. I could have, but I didn't. Yeah.
Was there any God incidents, any affirmation, anything that actually said, you know what, I'm not gonna do that? Was there a moment or not? I mean, I'm not looking for one if there wasn't one there. Same with you. Was there a moment where you said, I just got to go to this meeting? Because that's how you two got together.
It was one of the first things that I did, I guess. I was looking, I don't even know if somebody suggested that meeting. It was about letting go, and I'm like, this is too soon to let go. But, I'll go to listen to what they have to say.
Oh, that was the talk. Letting
go.
Let go.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was for people that had been dealing with this for a long time, and meanwhile, it was very,
It was new to you.
very new. Yeah, it was a little bit longer for you.
I just remember everybody there seemed very genuine. There was no judging, and it didn't matter what your story was. And it just felt like, wow, this is exciting to go there.
Good.
Yeah.
So you find this group. Were you praying at this time or anything? Or no, that wasn't part of your life?
Yeah, but I do remember sleeping with my rosary. In fact, we both kind of have that story, I just needed something to hold on to to maybe feel like you can get through this. Because I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing.
I wasn't praying at that time.
You're reaching for answers. You're grabbing a rosary, and you're you don't even know why, right? It's something that from the Catholic faith is important. So you kind of grab it and hold on.
You might have
to
been
it.
doing that. At that time of my life, I was not praying, and I was not at that time, but with grace, I would wind up sleeping with the rosary and praying. A
that's
different
okay.
part of my life,
Now,
obviously.
did you have children from the first one? No, so you did.
Yeah, 2 daughters. Yeah.
So you get married. So keep going. What happens then?
Wanted to have a family.
And how long was it before you got married? Really?
We met in '99. Is that what year it was? November 9th, '99.
Yeah.
Year 2000 was a special. That was our first date, the New Year's Eve of
That was your first
going
date?
into the millennium. That was a
Wow.
special night.
Okay.
Chuck even coordinated a carriage ride.
Wow.
and
I was going all out.
down in Station Square.
Station
I mean,
Square.
it was beautiful. I mean, like I was blown away. But anyways,
Wow, I would have never.
we got
thought.
married in 2002, November again. We chose my parents' wedding anniversary, the 30th.
2002.
2002.
2 years.
Yes. Yeah. So not real long. We got engaged, I think, that beginning of 2000, in May of 2002, and then got married the end of 2002. And we knew we both wanted to have a child together. I mean, I wanted to be a mom. You wanted to do this again, and I was. This was important. One of the things I loved about Chuck was he's a good father, and despite what he was going through with his kids at the time, that was important to me. That was something you think, okay, you don't want to have somebody that has this life that has a lot of stuff going on and it's complicated, and it was complicated, but
Drama.
it was also
Yeah.
what drew me to him, because he still was a good father.
He handled it well.
Yeah, I mean, and the kids and his daughters really loved him, and you could just see that, and he really loved them. So that made, I don't know, but anyways, that was a drawing factor. But so we wanted to have a child, and that we didn't wait for your annulment to be done. I had my annulment done, and we're like, we need to get married because we want to start a family. So we did, and then we did get married in the church eventually when I was expecting Grace.
Was Grace your first child?
Grace is my only child.
Okay.
Yeah, and your third daughter.
Yeah.
Well, tell us
This
about
is starting
that
to sound
moment.
like soulmate-ish.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 Meant to be. Yeah, kind of. So tell us about that moment when Grace is born and you're in the hospital and that whole situation.
For me, obviously I was divorced at that time. I had, 2 daughters that were preteen or teen, somewhere in that ballpark. So it was tough because, you think as a family you're going to be together, stay together, and everything will just go that route. So it was difficult because I thought I was close to my daughters. And so that all changed. That all came to an abrupt halt, even though I tried to keep the relationship strong. So then, with us, we have a daughter, and I'm like, wow, this is
And we
cool.
did not find out what the gender was going to be. That was something important to Chuck. And
Not to know
You didn't
children.
want to know.
no,
The
I wanted to know,
old-fashioned
but
way.
he wanted to
wanted to
know.
do
But
That's
Yeah,
awesome, yeah.
yeah.
So we-
And we weren't even sure on the name. We had talked about Grace. We had talked about Isabella. So when she was born in the hospital, the doctor says, "What's the name?" And I blurted out Grace.
And I think that's when I found out that this is a girl, because they
Yeah.
never said, "Oh, it's a girl" or anything
Yeah.
like that. And I'm like, it was like, I think they assumed that that because a lot of people find out.
And what year was that?
2005, February 5th, 2005. So 2505 is those are her numbers. But I'll never forget when I held her for the first time. Sorry. She recognized my voice because she went like this, like real fast, and heard me talking, and like I knew she recognized my voice. It was so
Oh,
powerful.
beautiful.
Yeah. Anyways, they say that they hear your voice throughout the whole pregnancy, but for her to actually like turn her face, like her whole body towards me when I was holding her.
Had you
just so
mentioned her name or anything, or she just you were just
I
talking?
just was. I think I was just talking, and it was surprising. Like I said, it really surprised me. But that was a really special moment.
Were you there for that moment?
Yeah.
I was, yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't want to say I was along for the ride, but everything was just planned so perfectly. I mean, Bethany's a planner, and everything was just going to plan. And I'm like, this is great. I just had gone through, a divorce and, the situation with my daughters. Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm blessed. I have this opportunity. I don't want to say chapter 2, but it was my chapter 2. And it was just, everything was beautiful. Everything was perfect and just going according to plan.
Well, tell us about Grace as a child, and tell us some of your thoughts about some of those cool memories and all that kind of stuff.
So we wanted her to go to Catholic school. It was important to us. We wanted the faith, our faith, that we were still in the process of developing, as adults, to be a part of her life, and to be able to talk about that and to share those same values with other students that were going to school with her. So that was something we researched and figured out the school that she was going to go to, that we were going to join the parish and get involved. And, it wasn't a school that was 5 minutes away. We probably passed, you always laugh at me, like maybe 4 Catholic schools before we chose the one that we did. And we were very fortunate we did, because we had, these families that her friends, families that are still our friends, and her friends are still our friends. But I always used to tell her, she participated in basketball and soccer and Girl Scouts, and was a musician. She played flute, and then was even in the marching band in high school. But I used to tell her, you're so lucky. This is something that I always wanted growing up. I didn't feel connected with the faith. Like, it was, you went to CCD and that was it, once a week. But like, she had that faith every single day and knew it better than I knew it. I mean, would do vacation Bible school. She had the answer. She'd raise her hand. I'm like, I don't know if I know the answer. Like, she knew the answer. But like, would go to she'd have a soccer game on a Sunday. And then she'd say, her friend Jenny is going to Mass. And can we go to Mass right after the soccer game? I'm like, I guess. That was my attitude still. It's like, I still wasn't like really as connected as she was in her faith. I wanted to, promote a good atmosphere, a good faith-filled home, and doing the right thing. Again, checking boxes, like Chuck was saying. But of course we would go to Mass, and then we would have dinner with her friend and her family after Mass. I mean, it was just a whole Sunday of events that I always said, this is like, I told her, I said, you're so lucky to have this. I said, because we didn't. Oh yeah, it's definitely in her.
It was there. She wasn't checking.
She was
boxes.
helping us with our faith, I think.
And for me, in my first marriage, I was working 2 jobs. My wife was going to night school and working. I never had time to really, really dive in and be involved. I did the best I could, as much as I could, but now I'm thinking, I'm a little bit older, I can see things from a different lens.
You coached.
I have an opportunity now to really dive in.
Be there.
Yeah, thanks to my wife encouraging me to, why don't you get involved? Why don't you do this?
He coached basketball, coached soccer,
Yeah.
even though those weren't your sports growing up. But
Somebody at school, a good friend of mine, Dave Barone, decided, let's get the dads into the school. Most of the time it's the moms. Let's show this school us dads are good, So he decided, let's do a recess rosary. And I said, I can't do it, I'm working. And through my wife's encouragement, I would take a half a vacation day or a vacation day, and I would go to the school, and here was a bunch of us dads doing the rosary with the kids. Wow. And when the kids are little, they're all there. They want to get out of class. We'd give them some treats. But as the kids got older and older, the class size got smaller and smaller. By the time Grace...
they had to give up their recess time to do the rosary.
So by the time Grace was older, she may have been one of a few kids that were there, and Dave decided, I'm going to get a gift card, and I'll tell these kids, if you come to everyone at the end of the rosary season, you'll get a gift card. And Grace got it. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so it gave me an opportunity, and this is where, through Grace, through my wife, that my faith, and now I'm involved in thinking, I wish I would have done this years ago, but I'm doing it now, and that's all that matters.
You can't go back.
You can't go
Move
back.
forward.
Right. So, Grace, through her faith, is leading me, I don't even want to say back to my faith, but to my faith. Because I'm really now starting to get engaged, because she was. We'd be at Mass, I'd have my phone, and I'm fumbling to find the readings, and she'd say, Daddy, USCCB, you can follow the Mass. And I'm like, oh yeah, here it is. She led me to it. And her faith was so strong. And I always thought, when you're younger, it's hard to take the high road and be into your faith. If that would have been me at her age and I would have seen a younger person, I would think, I'm going to keep my distance. They're kind of weird. Look how much they're into their faith. Little did I know, that's the way to go. Take the high road, be into your faith no matter what happens to you.
And she was surrounded by that and supported by that. Like the families, the friends, they were all kind of in that same boat. But all we did was expose her to it. We are not, like you heard our story. We grew up in the faith. Yes, we were born into the Catholic faith, but we really, we checked boxes. Kind of a lot of our life. Even now, I still feel like we do certain things to check boxes, but I think this is probably the first time in my life, this part of my life, where I'm trying to spend some time actually praying and talking to God and
For real.
for real. Yeah.
So he shouts out when she's born, Grace, right?
Grace Isabella.
Grace
He said,
Isabella.
"What's her name?" And we didn't know for sure if it was going to be Grace Isabella Grace. He's like, Grace Isabella. I'm like,
So using the word grace, what happened was Grace brought the grace of God to
to
you.
us. Yeah.
Your child,
She's a gift.
Grace,
was
brought
a gift.
the gift of grace to you. Is that fair to say?
It is. We had Bishop Walterscheid as a friend, and we had talked to him about grace. I'm jumping ahead a little, but he said, we're graced, Graced. And I'm like, I never looked at it like that. We're graced. Yeah.
So what happens? So everything's normal. She's doing all the stuff that a child would do. She's at the top of her game,
Yeah,
and she's in the faith, and it's all going. It's a great life.
yeah, and she, I have to say, she always had some underlying health issues. Nothing that we couldn't manage. My wife did this beautiful job of managing, getting blood work, getting tests. And, Grace always strived. She hated to miss school. But she always was dealing with, some health issues. And we always were presented with, a teacher might say, we notice she's acting out a little bit. And we used to tell her, she does have some health issues, and she
And
can't.
she was on some medicines.
Yeah.
She had some hormonal issues, so she had to be on some medicines that were hormones. So they alter, obviously, your behavior a little bit. She was very focused on school always, loved school, wanted to do her best. But she would have like some ADHD symptoms. However, like not a traditional ADHD, she could sit there for hours, looking at something, and she excelled in school. She was a high honor roll student, but, that was one of the things that she had going on. But then when she was in 7th grade, we realized that there was something serious going on. She ended up in the emergency room around the Super Bowl. Like on her 13th birthday was the day that we went in, and she was falling at home. We were like, what's going on? Like, we didn't know if she tripped, a couple times she had done this, and I'm like, we better just take her in to get her evaluated. And we saw that her blood pressure, her heart rate, her temperature were all very low. Like her body was really shutting down, and we had trouble getting like a reading on the blood pressure machine, a temperature. We were like, the emergency room kind of bumped her up. Got her back to see, everybody. She was slowing down a little bit. It was hard to see, but she was slowing down, doing basic things, basically like eating, just taking a little bit longer to eat, doing her shower, So you're around this every day, so it's hard to kind of see what's going on, but you see it's taking her a little bit longer. Still doing school work and everything else in the meantime, and taking tests and doing well. But
Is there a diagnosis of any kind?
no.
I mean, for
So
people
we spent
watching that might
no.
be seeing the same kind of thing
So
in
we
their family.
so that we ended up in the emergency room. We got admitted to. We weren't even sure she was going to be admitted, but we were admitted to the pediatric intensive care unit that night for MRIs, CT scans. She ended up in the hospital for about 3.5 weeks in the ICU, just trying to figure out what was going on. She needed blood transfusions. White blood cell, red blood cell, platelets, They threw out like antivirals, antibacterial medications, not sure what was going on, antifungal stuff. They did IVIG, which is an immunoglobulin infusion, just hoping something was going to help because no one had any answers for this. Other than, oh, maybe this is a virus, it's cold and flu season. And people were praying. We had all these wonderful people at the school praying.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what got her better. Because we don't really, none of the doctors really knew why she got better, but she walked out of that hospital and we knew how lucky we were.
Yeah. She
But we took that medical record, that episode, to another hospital in Philadelphia just to get another opinion, what was going on. Is there a diagnosis? We did genetic testing. That's my background. So I had some connections over there and we got an appointment relatively quickly and she was seen and did all this testing on 2 of us. They found nothing. I mean, like they said, well, I mean, they just wrote it off as it must have been a viral episode of some
So her
sort.
symptoms continue, or did
No,
they back off?
they were done.
yeah.
So the next year, everything was pretty
Kind of
much
divine
fine.
intervention.
So the next year, everything was fine. But then the following 2 years in the winter time, between like November and March, her blood counts would start to fall. We'd start seeing her slow down, like with, again, like, oh, I'm coming out from school and she's just sitting there by her locker. When we go in and see, where are you? Why are you not coming out? And immediately it hit us, oh my gosh, your blood counts are probably low. So we got them checked. Within a couple of days, she had a transfusion because she needed
You know,
that low?
yeah.
it was very low. Yeah.
And, you know, I have
She
to
was
tell
very
you, the
anemic.
whole time through all the illnesses or when she wasn't feeling well, whether she was hospitalized or not, she never complained. If she knew she had to miss school, it really bothered her. And but she never complained like, I'm not feeling well, can I stay home?
She didn't want anybody to really know she was sick. She just
Yeah.
kind of wanted to just go with the flow. Like, I don't want to miss school. You know, I don't want to be treated any differently. You know,
She
that
wanna
kind
draw
of thing.
attention to herself.
Absolutely not.
No, she
yeah.
still wanted to participate. She played a musical instrument. She still wanted to participate in the marching band. If there was a concert, she still wanted to participate. Never had any excuses like, I just want to stay home. I don't want
But
to do
she would
it.
be fine throughout the whole year until this certain period of time. It would be a gradual process between November and March for the next couple of years until, you know, it was real significant in her junior year of high school. So she went to Catholic high school, Bishop Canavan High School. It was the best place for her because it was a small Catholic school and it was good. She could become herself and, you know, and really grow and there's so many good stories of her there and just flourishing academically and socially. And,
Yeah.
but she got sick in her junior year and, it was not good. All these counts were down. We were in between, like, we weren't in the hospital with her.
Still no diagnosis.
No diagnosis.
No.
So they were going to throw out some treatment again. We were close to a blood transfusion, a albumin infusion, and an IVIG infusion. So which one was going to win first? And we, of course, wanted her admitted for any of these infusions, and she didn't meet the criteria. But we did do the IVIG infusion on a Friday, and she looked better that day. You know, that evening, we had a good night.
Yeah.
It was February of 22.
Yeah. And, you know, I didn't realize that, especially a young person, a teenager, you go to the hospital that, okay, they can fix it. They can tell you what's wrong. You can go home. But as long as they can get you stable and you're able to walk out and go home, they pretty much have done their job. I mean, you get referred to specialists, but everybody can check the box. I'm a lung doctor. Okay, the lungs are good, so we can check off.
Treat and release.
I'm a blood doctor. You look good now. So
And it's hard because the specialists, you know, we had to really push for them to work together. You would think that they would work together, and they do to some degree, but I mean, they started to collaborate even more and more because of our pushing them to work together more and more. I mean, just brainstorming, because it was always like, no, I don't think this is my area. No, I think that, you know, everything's fine from my perspective. But meanwhile, we saw a child that had abnormal lab results and symptoms, so it was hard.
yeah, and I know the doctors, there was a couple in particular, they loved Grace as a patient because they knew how hard she persevered and just wanted to get better. And she really had their,
She'd take homework to the appointments.
It was a beautiful.
She was
patient.
always doing something.
Yeah, and they knew Mom was really managing, and so they were really, I can speak for some of the doctors, really vested in, hey, let's get her better. We'll monitor her, and make sure everything's good. And we were sometimes getting blood work, 2 or 3 times a week. They knew her by her first name basis there. And she was a trooper the whole
She said,
time.
as long as I don't have to, even if she had to do school virtually because it was towards in the pandemic, I don't care, just as long as I don't miss school, was her attitude about everything. Wow. She just wanted to be back in class, or at least doing it online, just staying.
So did she get through that period?
No, unfortunately she didn't. This was her junior year that she did not get through that period. And we're still in shock. She should be here with us. But I guess we wouldn't be here.
Did she just, I know this is extremely hard for you, did she just slow down and stopped?
So that morning,
what
the
happened?
morning after that she had her IVIG infusion, she had a headache, which is a normal side effect from that treatment. And so I thought, okay, your counselor, we'd better go in for some blood work. You were at work. I said, come home. Maybe we can get her to the hospital and get some blood work and see what was going on. So she laid down in her bed to rest.
If I can tell you, though, that it was the Saturday morning the Olympics were on. So I'm up getting ready for work. Grace is watching the Olympics, and she knows I'm in the kitchen, and she said, hey, Daddy, can I have some candy? And I said, you can't have candy for breakfast, but I'll give it to you anyway. So I gave her some candy. She's watching the Olympics. I go to work and, thinking.
It was the one day I slept in. She let me sleep in. I don't know why, but I wished I was up a little bit earlier. I would have been able to spend some more time with her. That's the only thing I wish, but.
So, Bethany calls me to come home. Well, let's take her in. She can get some blood work done. And my first reaction was, are you overreacting? You want to go back?
Because we just had blood work the day before.
We were just at the hospital the
Yeah.
day before. I'll come home anyway. And I did.
And within about a half an hour, things changed drastically. Grace went
At home.
At home.
Yeah.
So she went from her bedroom. We were ready to walk down the stairs to leave and go to get blood work, and she sat down in the hall. And I said, "Please don't lay down," because I figured it would be harder to move her. And she's like, "I won't." And I thought about giving her some of her medication that is helpful when she's. It's a stress dose of a hormone medication that she takes, and we've done that before. So I gave it to her. It's a pill that she has to swallow, a little pill that she has to swallow, and I could just tell she wasn't swallowing it right. It was dribbling down her mouth. I'm like, this is not good. We're gonna have to call an ambulance. So we did, and so that's how she ended up leaving our house, and ended up at the emergency room. They did a CT scan pretty quickly and figured out her brain was swollen. We're like, what? We don't even understand what that means. So we're like, okay. They're like, well, we're going to do some different procedures to help her. And we're like, okay, and we're thinking, okay, this is good. They know what to do, not realizing that the brain is the worst thing that you could have happen to your body because it's the control center of your whole body. And once it's swollen and brain cells are, it was pushing down on her ability to breathe and everything. So it was just not a good situation for her at all.
Yeah, that quick. And it was like the light switch was turned off. That quick it happened. And
the doctor, one of the ICU doctors had told us, because we had spent some years here and there in the ICU for about 3 different years we were there. One of the specialists that was not on service for her because of the issue she was having was this brain issue. With the swelling in the brain. I said, I just wish we could have gotten her here sooner, if we would have known. He's like, he told us basically he's seen this once in his life, and he was an older gentleman of the faith, which was interesting. We found that out later. He said that I've seen it once before. This was a patient that was here, and there really wasn't anything they could do. This is something that happened so rapidly that medicine is not there to help. You think medicine is going to help you get them to the hospital. Medicine, they know so many things about so many things, in treatments, but they don't know everything. So it was all not part of the plan.
Did you ever get a diagnosis?
No.
No.
To this day?
No.
No.
Never.
And
despite reanalysis of the genetic material that we had, and we did an autopsy, which was, I should have known that was going to be useless based on my work, but we did it anyways. We just wanted to see if there was any kind of information, and we found out nothing.
And this doctor that was probably the most seasoned doctor in the ICU, very faithful guy. One day I was walking down the hall, and he walked with me, and he kind of like tapped me on the back and said, keep the faith, keep praying, no matter what. Yeah.
A doctor.
A doctor that Grace at that time wasn't his patient, but he would stop in.
He spent a lot of time with us.
He spent a lot of time with us, and I think he was kind of told, she's not your patient, but you're coming in to visit. And he was such a blessing when he told me, keep praying. And at this time, everybody we knew that we reached out to was praying. I could walk down to the lobby. A friend of mine was there, and he was sitting there with his head down. He was praying. And I said, Kerry, what are you doing here? He said, I'm here to pray. We had people praying everywhere. There were churches that I don't even know where they are, that people were saying, hey, we have a prayer chain going right now.
And because
go
ahead.
And the first thing we wanted to do is we wanted people to come in and pray with us. We were reaching out
to every priest.
We were reaching out to every.
She had at least one priest there every day, if not. Two bishops visited her.
Yeah.
Our bishop that's at our church, Bishop Mark Ekman, who's now the Bishop of Pittsburgh, and then we met Bishop Walterscheid, who spent a couple of hours with us, and is a dear friend of ours now, and he helped us to just see, Grace is still here with us. Because that's what I was worried about. Everyone was saying her brain is not functioning, that, and I'm like, well, where is she? He's like, she's right here. And he's like, she knows everything that's going on, just keep talking to her. And, just, I don't know. He was just very comforting in what he had to say to us, which really made a lot. And he gave us his cell phone number. I think one time I called him because I was worried about something, or I asked him a question. I don't remember what it was, but it was 11:45. I called him and he answered the phone.
This is
during the time that we were still in the hospital.
Yeah, he came in one time, and we would talk to him. He would sit there and we prayed. And the one time he wanted to pray with us, there was a doctor there, one of the doctors we really liked, and I know she really took a big interest in Grace as a patient. And he said to her, "Would you like to pray with us?" And we all stood there and prayed. And
we even had a nurse. We even had a nurse that was a student at Duquesne University. That's where she wanted to go to be She wanted to be a math teacher or religion teacher. So there was a student that we invited to pray with us, and then we were doing the Chaplet of Divine Mercy at night, and that was going on. We had nurses that knew we did this at a certain time. But this is Grace.
And the reason we like talking about her, and the reason we bring her picture is we want to keep her in the present. If you were to come to our house, my wife probably has 50, 60 pictures all around the house. She changes them with the seasons, but we love to talk about her, and we tell anybody, you can talk about her, it's okay, we want to, because I understand people sometimes don't know what to say, what to do. And we know that we talked to Deacon Bill at our church, and he lost a daughter at a young age, and he said to us, don't feel you ever have to get over this or that there's a timetable. All you're trying to do is get through it. And I'm like, wow, I never thought about that. I always thought that maybe I'm going to have this grieving time, this process, and then I'll get over it, right? Yeah. Isn't that what I'm supposed to do? Isn't that what everybody should do? No, that's not. All I want to do is just kind of get through this. And we've told everybody that story. And
and he also told us that men and women grieve differently. A lot of times women like to talk about the situation and rehash everything, and guys just don't want to do it. They'd rather do something, and that's the truth for us as well. And it was good to hear that early on, because that way we knew where we were coming from. also that people were not going to want to say her name. They're not going to want to bring her up. You need to tell them specifically you want to talk about her. And, you know, that even if that means we cry.
In other words,
good.
if you see Angelo or I, or you want us to come up and say, you know, ask questions and do
Yeah, you know,
Right,
if you
we
absolutely.
did at Dick's, you know.
at Dick's, we prayed. Yeah.
we just-
And, you know, I want to tell you about Grace. And, you know, if you come to the house, it's kind of almost like a little funny. I'm going to warn you. We're going to warn you. The house is Grace.
More Grace than when she was there.
Yeah.
Because we have these
the
pictures
genetics
that we
are-
need to
The genetics
see.
are amazing. I mean,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
genetics are so amazing. She lives on just through you being here. I mean, you're so amazing.
And how fitting. Her name is Grace.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You know,
here's the hard question, and a lot of people aren't going to like the fact that I'm asking this question. But I think it's important that I ask this question because remember, we're trying to help other people
sure.
that might be in the situation or someday be in the situation, right? So you've been faithful. She was very faithful all of her life. Her name's Grace. She's been praying. She's got people all around her that are all in faith. And then when something like this happens and she passes, right? How do you maintain your faith? I think many people, and I hear from many people that say, well, how can there be a God? This person did all this stuff right. Apparently so. You prayed, you had a bishop that was there. You did everything you could, and she still passes away. How do you keep your faith?
You know, that's a good question. Father Mark Ackman, who is now Bishop Mark, he told us it's okay to be angry at God. He said, you can Google it, it's out there. We decided, though, that because of Grace and how strong her faith was, that we want to be strong in our faith. And we've had people tell us, look at what she did at 17 years old, how she lived her life, what she did, how she, with adversity of illnesses, look what she did. And we, for some reason, we said, because of Grace, we're going to go to our faith.
I had trouble with that question. Like, it's a really good question. I mean, and, you know, I still have trouble with it because I don't want to be mad. I don't know that I've had the be mad at God kind of thing in me because I'm like, but I also have done a lot of listening to different other priests and different people of the faith reading. Like, how can God allow this? But he does allow suffering in our life because of Adam and Eve, I've learned, you know, just goes back to that. And, you know, it's not that he causes this. It's just the human nature of being human, the fact that we're not divine.
That we pass.
Right, because of that history of everybody, you know, we're not perfect and, you know, we're not divine. So, but I mean, it's so hard to, like, I can say that, but the inner part of me does, you know, the feeling of it, you know, I don't know why I don't have that anger in God, but I think it's like Chuck said, like, she led us closer to our faith. And like, if she was into her faith, like, that's one thing we know, we feel like we know where she's at. Like, priests, the bishops, they feel like, you know, she's where she's supposed to be with God, you know, and that makes us feel good that, like, all we did was expose her to the faith and now she's there. But like, but the fact that, like, we, you know, just she's helping us still to grow in that faith is what I guess. That's
So
why we haven't lost the faith, is because we feel like
you're
it's
carrying the torch. Like, she started the
Yeah.
Yeah.
this torch, and
Yeah,
when
it's a good way of
when
saying
she
it.
passed, she gave you the torch.
Right.
And it's your obligation.
yeah.
I mean, that's me.
That's
making
so
this
true.
up.
No, that's a good point. That's really
You're
good.
just
the way
kind
you're
of
saying
carrying
that.
the torch and saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
we're carrying the torch."
I never knew until going through this that the line between heaven and earth is so thin, where heaven and earth come together. And I feel that, you know, with Grace, I can now see heaven. I'm here on earth and I see what she did, who she was, and how people react to her. And I'm convinced that she lived her life. She
She is your affirmation.
she is.
Because of her that you have.
When Grace passed, I said, I don't know if I can ever go back to her high school where she went to school. That was her school. She walked the halls. That's where her friends were. That's where the teachers were, the principal. And I said, I don't know if I can do it. Maybe I should. Maybe I should just stay away. But it took me some time to realize I need to go there. And the reason I need to go there, I need to show her friends at school, the administration, the whole faculty, the staff, that, like Grace didn't pass, she didn't die in vain. We're here. We still are going to celebrate her where she went to school. And I didn't realize, I shouldn't have thought about myself. How about these young people that were her classmates, that Grace was away from school because she wasn't feeling well and she never came back. They needed us to see, we're going to help you. This will be okay. We'll work with you, whatever we need to do. We'll support you, and you're supporting us. I still feel when I go there now, the school is supporting us, and I know we're still supporting them.
And that's why you started the foundation.
So I just to add a little bit to what Chuck said. I mean, I am a person, a human. Obviously, I need signs. Like I need to know. Like you were talking about heaven and earth being so close and everything. All I did was constantly pray for signs. Grace, show me that you're, here, that I can see, that you're part of my life still. Her sign is a heart. So, I mean, like we would see hearts in clouds, hearts. When we went to Italy, we saw hearts everywhere, on signs, on people's clothing. I mean, every day. But the signs we saw pretty quickly were just so powerful. They kind of like really felt that connection with Grace. I felt like she was just like, we just can't see her, but she's really close to us.
Hey, Mama,
and then the school,
Mama, I'm here.
yeah, and then the school with all the signs that they were providing to us were like these beautiful things that these students would be thinking up, and they'd go to the principal and say, hey, we want to do this. They have a garden that they established at the school. I mean, they were doing tributes in basketball games and soccer games and shirts, and I can't even name, there's so many things. We had to go in at the end of the school year, which was the end of May, and she had passed the end of February, so it was really difficult to go in, and I cried the entire speech, wrote it out, but we had to go in and thank these students for what they were doing because they invited us back. They wanted us to come back, even though they weren't saying that, but they were like, sometimes some of the events were like, can you come? You could just tell. They were like, if you can come and see this or whatever. And it just really made us feel that connection, and they felt connected with Grace and as well. It was a beautiful, we needed them, but they needed us, I think, too. And those were the signs that were not physical signs always, but they were the emotional signs that really helped us to get through this. We would never be where we're at and able to talk about this without not just our faith, but it's the family, it's our friends, that sat with us. We have friends that came over weekly. I mean, just to sit, and they're like, we don't have the answers, but we'll come and sit with you. And that means the most to us, is that we could cry in front of them. We could talk about Grace. We could talk about other things. It's that collaboration and partnership that we.
The high school where she went, Bishop Canavan, has a St. Anthony's program, a program for kids with autism, Down syndrome, and Grace loved those kids. She went to school with them her whole life, grade school and high school, and one of the girls in particular that Grace knew, that was part of her class. We found out after Grace had passed that she wasn't going to be able to attend school there anymore. And her mother said to us, Grace made her feel safe at school. The kids wanted to decorate Grace's locker, and we didn't know that this
impacted this young girl.
This young girl, it really impacted her. She couldn't walk by there anymore. And she was really struggling. Yeah. And we're still able to have a relationship with this young girl. We see her at Brother Andre's Cafe. She works there, and we're still able to go up and give her a hug. And, and her mom says it means so much that we're still able to keep this connection going. Yeah. And you don't realize what your kids are doing when they take the bus or you drop them off at school. Who knows what they're doing? I would pick up Grace from school. I'd say, "How was school?" "Good." "Do you have any homework?" "I don't know." But we got to find out how many people she touched. We just had, yeah, one of her classmates, a boy that transferred from Brentwood halfway through his sophomore year, said Grace was the first one that he met. And she would always talk to him, and she made him feel welcome. Grace was okay with not having the best friend, but she had a lot of friends, and they really appreciated who she was. There was a girl that got a religion award, and she told us Grace inspired her. And this girl really isn't even Catholic.
Well, I really didn't know you guys that well, and I didn't know her very well. And I was kind of sitting in the background, and the place was jammed. But I felt the love of all the, and that sounds corny.
Yeah.
But I was
Well,
sitting
I'm
in the
glad
back
that
here.
you felt that.
Yeah, I'm
That's
glad-
I was
good.
sitting in the back here, and I
See?
saw all these kids.
Yeah.
Oh, the football team and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I don't know if you were there that night.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm glad you're
I was
saying
just
that.
drawn to come over to you two.
Oh, I'm
We
so
we
glad you
keep
did.
learning something new every day. We just learned that from you. We thought we don't want this to be somber, people crying. Oh.
It was a
You're
celebration.
good. You go.
It was a celebration of her life.
Yeah, we want, we had her band uniform, we had her instrument. We wanted this to be a celebration.
Unfortunately, had experienced a friend of Grace's from Girl Scout camp lost her brother suddenly from unfortunate drowning. He was in his early 20s, and this family was so nice, and the mother was so involved and such a good mom. And I reached out to her. I said, we have to go to the funeral. We heard it on the news, of all places, on a holiday. It was I think 4th of July. And I said, we have to go to the funeral home. So we go to the funeral home, and it was hockey jerseys on the chairs.
It looked like a
balloons.
graduation.
And I said, you know what? Matter of fact, she even, and I'm not to be disrespectful, she had even a photographer, and not a photographer to zoom in on people. It was just to capture the atmosphere. And I was like, you know what? This is the way to do it, to honor somebody that you mean so much to you, like a child,
You think
like
about
that.
that
I
when
know
old
that
people.
young man. Huh?
Yes,
When
you
an
know
old
him
When
too.
an old person
Yeah,
dies, when an old person dies, we always go, well, they lived a great life, and we should celebrate instead of being sad.
Right.
But what you're pointing out is even more important. When a young person passes, there's a celebration there too.
Getting back to my younger life, it just seemed like the Catholic funerals were there was so much drama. Everybody was so sad. You had to go for 3 days. You went to the cemetery. I just remember everybody would be crying. Nobody was very upbeat. So for me, I just thought it was the thing to do, like your older grandmother, your aunt, whoever. But it took for Grace to pass for me to realize, wow, is this final? And I didn't want to be in that moment to where everybody is just sad. Nobody's really talking. Everybody's in this really bad mood. Let's celebrate Grace. Let's continue to do it. And that's what we're doing.
And keep her in the present, like you always
Yeah,
say,
keep her
Chuck.
in the present. And I have to tell you, at the spaghetti dinner, when we're in that room and there's 300, 400, 500 people, we get up to talk. Sometimes I'll say very little. I'll let Bethany, because she's very good at it. People want to see her, not me. But thanks, Bob. But when I look out and see all the people, it's like taking the television and making it tuned to where it's blurry. I really can't see anything. It's one big blur. But I think to myself, and I've said this to people, is this a big reunion we're having? Or could this be Grace's wedding? And I've said that to people, this celebration of her. And I have to think to myself, all these people are here for Grace. They're not here for me. They're not here for any of us. They're here for Grace. And I have to say to myself, this is my daughter. It's one of those God instances moment. Like, look, I'm part of the Emmaus community like you guys are. And we always say our job is to get our families to heaven. Well, in my case, and I've said it, Grace is going to get us to heaven. I'm convinced of it.
Well, it's obvious that you're headed in that direction, and she started to get you to move there. What's going on with the fundraiser? Tell us about it, because it's coming up.
Well,
And I want to make sure that we get that into the
yeah, let me tell you how it started. Through my employer, they raised a bunch of
Who's
money.
your employer?
City of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah, they raised money and they said we're going to do a GoFundMe
The
for
city
you.
of Pittsburgh
Yeah,
came up with this.
yeah. My department, I work for emergency medical services, and I had some coworkers that said we're doing a GoFundMe, and we're raising money for you. And my first reaction was, look, we're okay. I don't need you raising money for me. You know, you're just going to hand me money. We don't need it. We're okay. But they did it anyway, and it was very substantial. So we had this big check, and I remember telling, what did I tell you?
First thing you said, I think we should do it towards a scholarship at Canavan, Bishop Canavan High School. And I said, yeah, that's a really good idea, especially since Grace wanted to teach, high school. She wanted to teach. I asked her one day, I said, what's your dream job? No money. Like, if money was no issue, finding a job was no issue. She's like, I'd teach religion at Canavan. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
Of course, I was trying to talk her into a little more, like, how about math? Because I know you're good at math, because, you could find a job a little bit more easy and it was a little more versatile. But she was so into the faith and the education part. She said one day she doesn't want just Catholic high school, but Catholic college, So, I mean, it was just following her, and these signs were given to me from her through many conversations. So
she
it was
is
appropriate.
She is teaching faith in high school. Through the scholarship fund,
Yeah.
she is doing
What she wanted to do.
exactly what she wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we could never do this fundraiser without the wonderful friends and
How many
family.
years now?
4. This is going to be the 4th one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can people participate? Where do they go? Is there a website? What's the situation?
Yeah, we're blessed that I have some dear friends that are Knights of Columbus.
Okay.
And from the very beginning, they said, well, a lot of them are personal friends of mine that knew Grace. And they said,
Who's part of that
He's
group?
one of them.
well,
yeah.
Dave Barone is now the Grand Knight.
Okay.
Every Grand Knight the last 3 or 4 years has been a personal friend of mine.
Who are some of the guys?
Joe Maharsik,
Okay.
Doug Durda's a big help for us, Jake Pauley.
I know it's not fair.
Jimmy D.
It's
Yeah.
not fair but there's many, and it's
Yeah, I could take this whole time here and go over all the list of guys. Men's Emmaus group, which we're part of, Women's Emmaus. So we're blessed to have this support. It's all grassroots. We have no big corporate sponsor. It's all little people. And just to tell you real quick, when I first started this, we were looking for somebody to donate. And Dave Barone said to me, you should go to Pasta 2. I know the owner has a big heart. I don't even know the guy. So we go there to talk to him.
what's his name?
His name is Ray Piacquadia,
Okay.
and he owns a restaurant called Pasta 2 in South Park. I'm sure you guys know it. So we sat down with him. We showed him a flyer with Grace's picture. He says, what do you want me to do? I said, well, we need sauce and we need meatballs. And
We need sauce and meatballs.
yeah, and we weren't sure the very first year how many people. Well, we ended up with between 400 and 500 people. So I get back to him the week before and I tell him how many people. He says, you need about 25 gallons of sauce. And we said we'd like to have 2 meatballs for each adult, maybe a kid have 1. So we needed between 700 and 800. He says, call me the beginning of the week and I'll do it for you. We now are going back to him the 4th year in a row. And he says, just let me know what you want me to do. And after the event, we call him, we stop and see him.
Well, we don't want to assume that he's going to fund that whole bit. I mean, we were willing to pay for some of it, but he's been very generous.
He goes, he says to me, I'm blessed that I can help. I'll do it. And it's just grassroots, and it just leads us to believe there's people out there with faith, there's people with big hearts, regardless of what faith you are. They want to help, they want to do something, and we're just blessed. This is all grassroots.
And where's the money go?
So it goes into a scholarship fund that is for students that are attending Bishop Canavan High School. And we give preferences to some of the areas that Grace make up who Grace is. So, if there's going to be somebody that's going to be a freshman or incoming student joining the marching band, for instance, they will be eligible for scholarship money. Also from her grade school, Ave Maria Academy, which was St. Thomas More School. But we've expanded to other grade schools now. I mean, because not everybody's always coming from that particular school.
So there's been enough
based on
funding
need.
that you've already scholarshiped people. for
Yeah, so
Latin
we've
America.
as of this year we've given out about $58,000 in scholarship money. Also, about 43 students. Right now, the school had a
43 students you've scholarship.
yeah.
going to
Well, I mean
school.
scholarships, and I mean they get a little bit of money. And then sometimes we also do an award program too. So Grace received the Religion Departmental Award the year she was eligible to do that, and so we now attach a monetary award with that. And also we created a Math Perseverance Award, meaning the student that brings their grade up the most, works really hard throughout the year, shows the most improvement, can win that. And it's per grade, so there's 6 students that can win that. There's one from each grade every year that get a small award.
What's your goal this year? You have
So,
a set goals?
we've raised 20,000 basically every year since we've done this. So we do baskets 50-50, the dinner, people can donate money. That's what's really brought in the money for this event.
Do you have a target this year?
So we're hoping for the
20
same.
We're,
20,000.
we're hoping to do
we're
the
just hoping
same.
to do the same amount of people. We're hoping.
Yeah.
We start off with a mass. That's the most important thing to us is to get that mass.
So what day is the event?
So it's February 7th. It's a Saturday at St. Thomas More Church in Bethel Park.
What time is the mass?
The mass is at 4 p.m.
And that's the
and
first thing.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
an intention for grace, and we believe Father Mike Ackerman, the pastor, is going to be celebrating it this year. And then following, right, just walk over the breezeway, which is part of the church,
That's
right to the
beautiful
Family Life Center, and that's where the dinner takes place. So we say a couple words, Bishop Canavan says a couple words and a blessing, and then it's all night of socializing, brings the best people together.
And when we're at the Mass, we look around and we can see the church is pretty full, but you never know exactly. So last year, one of the ushers who I know walks around and does a count for the pastor,
yeah.
He said, "Hey, how's your spaghetti dinner?" We said, "It's tonight." I said, "Why don't you come on over?" He goes, "Okay, I will." So he came on over, and we happened to see him, and we asked him, "Hey, you
How
do
are
it?
the numbers?"
How are the numbers?" And he goes, "Normally we have about 400 Saturday night." He goes, "I can tell you, there were 600 tonight." So we had over 200 people that came to the Mass,
Simply because of the dinner.
and
Yeah.
Grace loved going to Mass. And I just think that she is thinking, look, this Mass is packed. Some of my classmates are here. Their families are here, and it's just awesome. People aren't just showing up to eat, grab a beer, buy a raffle ticket. They're coming to the Mass. They're participating in the whole night.
So what's the website? How can people participate? Either by coming to the dinner. They pay for the dinner. How much is the dinner?
So it's $15 for adults. I think children under 12, are free. I think that's what it is. It's on the Bishop Canavan website.
Okay,
So,
so you go to Bishop
bishopcanavan.org. Or I think that's the website. It's right on their main page. I'm sure we could probably give you the link. And you can donate if you're not going to come. We don't need you to get a ticket, but you can donate any amount.
So it's February 7th.
Yes.
The Mass is at
4
St.
p.m.
Thomas More Church in Bethel Park.
Yeah.
Right across from South Hills Village Mall. You can go to the Mass. You can go over to the dinner, right?
Yes.
Or you can donate long distance to help out with the cause, right? Which all goes to, and all the money goes to
Bishop Canavan High School.
Bishop Canavan
Yeah.
High School.
But you have to get your tickets ahead of
Have
time.
to get tickets ahead of time.
Right.
Jordan is going to put up, or maybe it's up right now, and I'm just talking over it.
Yeah.
Once he does an edit here, so everybody will have all the information. And if anybody ever has a situation where they want to get a hold of you or talk to you, they can do it through Bishop Canavan, right? And certainly you would want to help share your experiences in depth with some of those people.
Sure. Even,
Am I okay to say that?
yeah. And, even if we just need to listen, because
That's what
sometimes,
people need the most.
yeah, because sometimes I reached out to people just so I could talk. And if I've learned that at my older age too. sometimes you don't have to say anything. Just, yeah, when you were younger, you were told open your ears, right? And
So February 7th, just be there.
yes,
Just be there, right? Let's close. Did Grace have a prayer? Do you have a prayer that Grace said? What?
well,
There it is. If there is,
Yeah.
let's
There is.
close with that prayer. And, because obviously everything we're doing here is
Tell
for
them the
Grace
background.
and for the people out, the other Graces of the world that are out there and their families that right now, hopefully, you're getting some hope to from the big guy that's sending it down.
Of course.
He's here with us when two or more gathered, right?
sure.
We go into that prayer, and you have a little bit of story you want to tell about it.
Yeah, we do a prayer every night at 9 p.m. We're probably doing it 5 years now. Sometimes if we're in the car, we'll pull over. I carry it in the glove box or look on my phone. But we pray
Zoom.
through Zoom. We pray the Divine Mercy Chaplet. We were doing it for a priest, Father Joe Kadori, when he was ill. We do it.
Good friend.
Yeah, any intentions. When we were in the hospital with Grace, our friends were doing it. They maxed out. So many people joined. We would hold the phone up to her ear. But all the time we were doing it at home, at the end of the Divine Mercy Chaplet, it was time for the St. Michael prayer. And wherever Grace was in the house, she would come running in. And from a very young age, she knew it by heart. So there are people that never met Grace, but they knew Grace and the St. Michael prayer.
Let me just say something to you. There is the St. Michael the Archangel coin. On the back of that coin is the St. Michael the Archangel prayer. And for a lot of reasons, maybe that connection that we had that we thought it came out of nowhere, I have a deep connection there as well. And I'm so glad to hear that she had that.
This is no coincidence. You can't make
This is
this
a
up.
guidance.
You
Yes.
can't make this
I
up.
like it.
Yeah.
So let's
right.
let's join and let's send this prayer up for Grace, right? And you lead us in, and whatever you want to say, just go into it.
Okay, we appreciate this time together to talk about grace, to talk about what we're doing, and to let everyone know about our faith. And Grace's prayer is the St. Michael prayer. So we'll start now. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly hosts, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen.